You learn to step outside your comfort zone. Yes, there's going to be fear involved. We experience fear when it comes to taking the leap of faith, but then faith being the ultimate word. You have to have faith in yourself, and then you figure it out.
Hi, my name is Nicole, and today I am super excited because we get to meet Nigel from Nigel and Sue Adventures. If you've been with us before, you've been here for some conversations with Sue and I, and we are excited to have Nigel here to be part of the conversation today when we're talking about how to find international jobs. Nigel and Sue both have some experience with working internationally, and I'm super curious to just find out more. Hi, guys. Hi, Nigel. Welcome.
G'day, Nicole. Good to meet you finally. Hi, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Right? Nigel has the most exciting international job now.
I think I remember you saying that he's a helicopter pilot, right?
Yeah, not the sort of job just anybody can get, but yeah.
Yeah, and certainly worked internationally.
When Sue mentioned that and I was doing the video edit, that's actually what prompted me to want to talk about this, because I want to know, how can I be a helicopter pilot? How can we make that work?
Well, I can teach you. I've certainly taught a lot of people how to fly, and so many different avenues you can go down. But as long as you've got good health, good eyesight, and reasonable hand-eye coordination, anyone can fly a helicopter. And what I love about this job I have now is I'm working with a lot of female pilots. It's great, and it's not something
cool.
it's not an industry where I've worked with a lot of female pilots, so it's a breath of fresh air.
Oh my goodness, that's really cool. How did you get into flying helicopters?
Well, I've done a whole bunch of different stuff, and at the time I was working as a golf professional on the golf course, work with one of the club members who was spraying the golf course with the chemicals to make the grass grow, and my job was to help, and I begged for a ride in the helicopter, as a reward. And I was hooked from then on, and that was in my early 20s, and I didn't start flying or training until after my work in Europe, where I met Sue. That's where I left Contiki to go learn how to fly helicopters. So the bug was always there. It was that annoying tickle in the stomach that I had to respond to, and so I didn't start flying until I was mid-30s, so a little bit later than normal. But it's never too late.
That's awesome. I love the idea of that. I have the personality type where there aren't enough jobs out there for me. I would like to learn how to do everything. So that's definitely up there on the list. So you mentioned Contiki. That's where you all met in Europe, right? Can y'all tell me about how you both ended up working there and how long that was for? Just all the details about how that came together.
So I traveled around Europe. I backpacked around Europe in 1989, a long time ago. And then I went back to live in Europe in 92. Through a series of events, I found myself in London with a backpack and like $50 in my pocket. And I'm like, I really have to get a job really quickly. And my background at that time, so I was in my early 20s, and I'd done quite a bit of office administration, like secretarial work. And so I had to find somewhere to live, and I had to find a job very quickly before this $50 ran out. And I came across a 4-week-old, so there's a newspaper for mainly Antipodean Australian and New Zealanders, but expats living in London at the time. And I found a 4-week-old issue of that paper and found an ad in there that I can't remember what it said, like something like, do you want to travel the world and get paid for it? And I'm like, hell yes, sign me up. And the applications closed the next day. So this whole thing was just like, it was complete fate. So I frantically got my application in. Sure enough, long story short, but I ended up getting the job. The thing with Contiki is they get, obviously it's a dream job, right? Who wouldn't want to be traveling around Europe for 6 months of the year with 53 of your new best friends, and maybe 1 or 2 not so best friends in there, but You get that.
And awesome drivers.
And awesome drivers. So yeah, but the thing is, they get a lot of applications. So the year I applied, they had 1,500 applications for 50 vacancies. So I think at the time they had about 200 tour managers, as we were called, the guides, and 200 drivers. So each year, and the average lifespan was only about 2 years. I did 5. Nigel did 10 years with them. So what does that say about us? But I think each year they would recruit about another 50 of each. So I was lucky enough to be one of those 50 out of 1,500. And then once you get the job, they take you on a 6-week training trip, unpaid, in winter around Europe. And it's like a boot camp. It's notoriously really tough. For the drivers, they have to learn how to navigate around Europe. And this, of course, is back in the days before Google Maps.
No GPS.
No GPS,
I
no
can't
TomToms,
imagine.
none of that stuff. So paper maps. And for us, again, so, not having Google was an advantage for us because the people on the bus couldn't fact check the stuff that we were telling them. We could kind of make stuff up a little bit.
Or
But
if we got lost.
yeah, we had to know all the history and, where's the toilets and where can I change money before the euro. So, yeah, it was an absolutely fantastic job. Hard work. It's one of those glamorous jobs that people just see the good side of it, but it was really hard work. But yeah, it's the best job you could ever have.
Very rewarding, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that sounds incredible. Are those jobs still there?
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. But you do need to have the ability. You have to have a
You need a
European passport.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, and a British passport now
Okay.
is not enough. I mean,
Yeah.
I went through, as Sue said, on and off for 10 years, and essentially I had to cut my ties because I don't hold a British passport or a European passport. I'm on a Kiwi New Zealand passport. We're on an exemption at the time, back in those days, in the 90s. And then the powers that be were saying, no, you can no longer do this job. Plus I was getting a bit old. It's an 18 to 35-year-old tour group. And I was about 37, I think, at the time. But, then it was a good excuse to burn the boats and go right and then get into aviation, and give that a red hot go. So, yeah, just to quickly riff off what Sue has just said, I basically sold my business. I was a young golf professional in New Zealand, sold the business to the disgust of my accountant at the time. But I knew that hitting a little white ball and chasing it and hitting it again was not for me, and so gave that up. Went travelling, fell in love with Europe. Decided that to get my bus license. I'd never driven a bus in my life. Took me 4 goes to get my license. By the way, I wasn't prepared to give up. So in the 4th go, got my license, applied to Contiki, same as Sue, and then the next year I was on the training trip. That's it in a nutshell there, and best job I've ever had. Better than a current job, if I'm honest. Love what I do, love flying, but to travel around Europe and with every day is a Monday morning and every night's a Friday night. It was great. Things have changed since then, but it's just a great job. And I guess for Sue and I, we're going back to those days, and this is why it's in our blood. Like, we just love, going to new places and
Life on the road.
Yeah, life on the road is. Sue's in the chair.
Yeah.
Telling me where
to go. Same as,
Same as the old days. Yeah.
almost 30 years ago when we first met. And
But for anyone who hasn't heard all of our story, so we did meet over there, but then we went and did separate things. So Nigel went off and became a pilot and flew all around the world, and I kind of came back to Australia and settled down, got married and had kids, and then that obviously didn't work out, and then we reconnected. It's 11 years ago now, so yeah, it's just we were kind of apart for almost 15 20 years, but yeah, now we've reconnected and back on the road together, so it's good.
That's really incredible. You never know where those international travel jobs will lead.
No, but I mean, your job must be so interesting too. I mean, Haiti, Iraq, Guatemala, you get to go to some really cool places.
Yes, I have. I work with a really cool organization that's doing great work, and it's been a real privilege to do that. And I hope to one day be doing this content creation thing full time, just because it is a lot of work, right? So it's like having two
Yeah,
jobs,
yeah,
but
yeah, exactly.
um, and just one doesn't pay as well. So, and it's
Not
this
in the
one.
beginning.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. That's right. We're building towards something good. So it's all right. What do you think other people need to look for if they are wanting to work internationally? How can they get started? What's an entryway into that?
So I guess it depends. Like a lot of jobs these days, and I think we've got COVID to thank for this, but what a lot of people have found is that they can work remotely, and not only workers, but a lot of companies
Mm.
have found that as well. So we're hearing more and more about people going on the road and just taking their regular jobs with them, whether that's in their own country or whether they are traveling internationally. We met a couple last year in Exmouth, which is on the west coast of Australia, and he works for a company in Sydney and started working from home during COVID and just kept working from home. Only his home is a van. So, start where you are. Like if you want to travel, see if your job can be done remotely. So I think that's the number one thing, because you might be surprised. Number two is if there's somewhere you want to go, just go. My elder
Mhm.
son is 22, nearly 23, and he moved over to London about 18 months ago and got a job working in a bar. Now, it's kind of almost a rite of passage for Australians and New Zealanders, because
Mhm.
we've both done it, to go to London and get a job working in a bar. But he's pretty much settled there now. He's managing the bar. He'd never worked in a bar. I'd never worked in a
Oh.
bar. Nigel had never worked in a bar. You
Oh.
just kind of bluff. Well, we
Mhm.
bluffed our way into it. I think Luke was honest
Well,
and
yeah,
said he had no experience, but it's just go there and yeah, that's
you learn to step outside your comfort zone. Yes, there's going to be fear involved. We're like anybody else, the person next door. We experience fear when it comes to taking the leap of faith, but then faith being the ultimate word. You have to have faith in yourself, and then you figure it out. You become very adaptive when you travel away from home.
resourceful.
Resourceful, thank you. Yeah, that's the word. And with that, it gives you a lot of confidence. I think that for anyone umming and ahhing about taking that leap of faith, yeah, you just got to back yourself. And for me personally, my mindset changed. To use Branson's words, screw it, just do it.
I think for Americans, like people from the United States, it's a little bit different, because for us non-Americans, we have so many reciprocal agreements, particularly for young people, with a lot of other countries. Like it's so hard to get into the US and work. Like you've got to have a green card. So it's not like you can come there on a working holiday visa. You guys don't let people come
Mhm.
and work there. And so therefore other countries don't let Americans come and work there. But here in Australia,
Yeah,
for example, we allow people from, so I couldn't even tell you how many nations, but it's probably at least 20. Like a lot of European nations, South Americans, Asians,
Mhm.
young people can come here on a working holiday visa. Now, when I was in Exmouth last year, I went and had a job for a little while. It was an experiment, didn't work. I went and worked in housekeeping in a resort. So I was cleaning toilets and making beds. And I worked there with young
Mhm.
people, backpackers from France, Italy, the Netherlands, Argentina,
Oh.
Chile,
Scandinavians
England,
were
yeah,
there.
just from all over the world, Germany, and it was just incredible. And
Mm.
then young people from Australia can also go to their country and get these visas. So,
Right.
and for those backpackers that come here to work, there's like a network. It's so easy now, Facebook groups. And like for me, when I wanted that job, it was just word of mouth. So I just asked, I was actually
Mhm.
staying in the van at a caravan park, and I asked the lady in reception, do you know anywhere that's looking for people to work? And she said, oh yeah, just try down at this resort. I rang them and they said, come in for an interview this afternoon, and I started work the next day. So
Wow.
there's work out there if you look for it. And the other thing that I would
Right.
suggest is perhaps outside the big cities. Definitely here in Australia, that's the case. The people are screaming out for workers. So it's, if you want to work,
Wow.
there's always work there.
My best friend is in Australia working on a working visa. She's from Portugal and can do that. And so she's been there almost 2 years and is having an amazing time. So that's definitely one way to get up and go. Maybe not as much for Americans. I think one of the things I've heard about Americans doing are going with American companies to other places, or sometimes even the government has jobs all over the world, like the US government. You can go work for the US government in another country. It might not necessarily be a job where you get to travel everywhere, but just the experience of having that job somewhere else may be the right experience for some people. I think the idea of getting these jobs that are maybe seasonal in different places, maybe it's working at a ski resort somewhere and you do that for a season, then you can go somewhere else for a season. I think there's a lot of appeal in that too, just depending on what your lifestyle is and how much you want to travel, how frequently you want to be going from place to place. There's definitely a lot of opportunity out there, all sorts of ways to design it. I mean, you could go work on a cruise ship or maybe on some yachts or something. I think you can do that just about anywhere in the world. And so there's opportunity if you really want to travel. I do think remote work is such a popular thing now. It's something I do, and I enjoy the fact that I have the privilege of doing that. But I also think there's something about working with people that can be fun. And so that makes it a whole different kind of experience. There's just a way to connect. I mean, that's how you all met, right? Like if you were working remotely by yourself, that might not have happened. And so there's something about working with a team of people on something that I think can be really rewarding in its own way. So remote work can be great and it can be really flexible. I think the drawback of all that is sometimes missing that work community and being in person with people, which has its own value. So
we're both introverted people, and we joke that we hate people, but you know we don't. We're introverted. We cherish our space, quiet time. But you know, even in my job, which can be very remote, I'll be out in the middle of nowhere. If it wasn't for the people, I wouldn't have that edge. So 100%.
Yeah, and for me, you know, that job I had in Exmouth, I mean, who likes making beds and cleaning toilets? That was awful. But the people that I was working with was so interesting, you know, to be able to chat to people from all these different countries, and that was worth it.
So how is the pay for various types of work that you all have seen? Enough to really get by on? What do you think about that?
You know, it's not a huge amount of money, but you don't do it for the money, you do it for the experience. And a lot of these jobs, you've got your board and your meals are included. So yeah, that's kind of a part of it as well. So
yeah, I mean, Sue and I didn't take over a job with Contiki, for example, for the money.
No.
You know,
it was £10 a day when we started, plus £4 a day bonus if you did the right thing. So, you know, our passengers had to fill out a little questionnaire at the end, and if they said bad things about us, our pay got docked.
We got docked.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something that it's always like, if it's worth it to you, if you really want to travel, if you really love it, you can figure out how to do it. There's so many different types of opportunities out there. Work exchange programs, woofing, you know, to work on our organic farms, and they give you a place to stay in, they feed you. So it's like, you don't really have to earn a lot of money in order to do something like that. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity. I mean, as I get older, I am more like, okay, I don't really want to rough it, you know, like, I enjoy, you know, a nice bed to sleep in and that sort of thing. But it's still, there are plenty of adventures out there and you can figure out a way to do it. And I think a lot of times, sometimes those doors open from those opportunities that you weren't even expecting. You may end up with some other kind of job or career path that you never thought you'd have because you learned something or met someone, or you just find all of these really cool opportunities. Well, just want to encourage all the folks out there, if you want to travel, you can make it happen. Let us know in the comments if you work traveling the world, if you have a remote job, how you're doing with that. We'd just love to know and hear some of your feedback. Also, be sure to let us know if there are any other topics you'd like for us to cover and talk about. So thank you guys, Nigel and Sue, so much for the conversation, and I look forward to next time.
Chat then.
See you, Nicole.